or Warwick, as Dr. Ben says in his book, from Giza to Abbey Simbel. You can get that book that has all the temples in it. This is a layout of Karnak, or a Pet Asu, and it is it's a mile and a half long and a half a mile wide. That means that would reach from Ashby Street to the Fulton County Stadium. That's a big place. A mile and a half long, a half a mile wide. That's the Temple of Karnak. Now, they had to do, everything had to be male and female. You have what you have here. You can't see it, but they have something that's called the Avenue of the Sphinx. These Sphinx have a ram head. They would go down the street, up the street, turn into a lion's head, and go into another temple, the Temple of Luxor, or the Temple of Waset, which was a which was an early Hathor temple, and it was a marriage between the Temple of Amun, a male god, and the Temple of Hathor, a female god. Even down to the temple, everything was in proportion and accurately done. You see. And if you want to get more of these pictures, there's books that cost a lot of money to get these, but you can get a book for $19 called Secrets of the Great Pyramid by Peter Tompkins. And it has a lot of these Napoleonic Egypt pictures in it. You know, next slide.
Tell me about the
Yeah. Now, this is the inside of this temple. Well, let's put the tape in. It's the inside of the temple. And this is the courtyard. You have these pillars standing up. This is the inside of the temple. And it's showing you that we were master builders. Now, I want you to pay attention to these pylons because I'm going to talk about this later. I'm getting ready to end this section and I'm getting ready to go into some real deep stuff. Next slide. This is the length of the temple from the round-headed Sphinx going on down. And this is a huge thing. And it's got temples going into it. It's got several temples, but this is the length of this thing. These are these pillars you see standing out in the courtyard. Then they went into a part called the Hypostyle Hall, and they went all the way back into what is called a Holy of Holies, which is the Sanctum Sanctorum. Show you a picture. There's another small temple there called the Temple of Apis. Some people said that this god, the god, the hippopotamus god I showed you, was an earlier god, but this temple is much later. And this is an inside scene of the Holy of Holies. What you have here, and there's pictures of the hippopotamus god, and there's a doorway, and you can't see it in here. You might be able to see it on yours, but there's a doorway, and inside that, there's a hippopotamus god. And the initiate, when he got to a certain level, when he was going up right on the square, right, when he got to a certain level, he knew he was going back because man is not man not unless man is half woman. Woman is not woman not unless woman is half man. But she didn't have to go through all of this because she was God all the time. But they knew that the man was a child, and they knew he had to subdue his beastly nature and subdue his passions to come upright on the square, as Masons would say, to go into the higher level. He would have to become half woman, because the woman is the spiritual side. She represents the spiritual side, and the man represents the aggressive side. But also the woman, there's aggressive goddesses as well as spiritual goddesses. The woman, she's just bad. You look at the way she looks and tell that.
Sure.
All that's symbolic. All that's symbolic. The big booty that you see, that's symbolic. The big thighs that you see, those thighs represent the throne of Isis, where Horus, the big, the child god, which is represented as Jesus later on, you sit on. All that's symbolic. Everything. But they would go all the way back, and this was like saying, returning back to the womb. Like I said in the other lecture, you either can return back to the womb the ignorant way on the beastly level, or you can return back to the womb on the high level and have all this in check. And when you return back down here, all that's in check. That's called Immaculate Conception. You see, there's science all in that. You know, but this is symbolic of going back to the womb. And they have bodies, they have corpses, they have bodies that's been mummified somehow carved in ice, even all in Europe, when we migrated up into Europe and later on became white before they got bodies, bone structures of men and women going into the fetal position, going back into the same way they came out. Because they knew I had to get back to that great mother. That's going to take me on in to another level, to the other level. That's why I'm stressing the importance of this. We got everything else. We're going to get this knowledge, but there's one thing that we got to understand. We got to get back to this, because the African man was strong. He didn't have to trip on whether this woman had all this power. He knew his place. It's the same thing with the lion we was talking about before the lecture. That male lion, that woman, she does everything. He just sit there. She go out and get the food and come back and feed it. Oh, he eats the food before the kids get it. And he just sit and say, what does he do? Go in that den and find out what he do. You understand? In Ethiopia, when Alexander the Great invaded, he went into Kemet. He was going on down into Ethiopia, but he said, "Oh Lord, that's the seat of black power." And they had most of the Ethiopian monarchy was queens. And he said, "Damn, I don't want to go down in there, but that's the seat of black power." The Candace queens. And he said, "That's the seat of black power. And I don't want to risk getting my behind whipped by a woman." So he turned back. And that's how strong that is. And isn't it ironic that all the continents and all the continents in the world and all the countries in Africa was colonized by Europe except Ethiopia. And then we see all this stuff start going on in Ethiopia about around 1985 on up to now, and we understand divine intervention don't step in until you on your last leg. You see how things go? They go in cycles. But anyway, this is the temple of Ammon, and this is the Holy of Holies. Now, we got this wrong. Now, even we have it wrong now in the wedding ceremony. You, in your church, you have an aisle, and you have what is called the fallopian tube. That aisle that you go down is the fallopian tube of the womb, the vagina. And when you get married, the woman goes down the aisle. This is symbolically wrong. Sperm don't travel up and fertilize the eggs. So you have the deacons and the deaconesses, and you have the pulpit, the womb. Sperm don't, the woman don't travel up and fertilize her own eggs. Sperm does. So they got it wrong. No man's supposed to be walking up that aisle.